ROL kids, it's great to be back with you again today. I hope those of you who managed to sign into the Zoom meet with Team Emerald are having a great time. It's fun, isn't it, to see friends from church who we maybe haven't seen for a very long time. Children, if you haven't managed to get onto the Zoom today, then make sure you chat to your parents and they sign up and get the link to join in next Sunday. We're doing that at 8:45 every week. All right, so today we've got a short talk about a really famous man in the Bible. I'm sure you will know his name and know some of his story. His name is Moses. And what I wanted to ask you to have a little think about is which part of his life is your favorite story? There's so many parts to Moses' life. Maybe it's right at the beginning. Do you remember Herod was killing all the babies? He wanted to destroy anyone who he thought was going to take over from him. He'd heard about Jesus. And so Moses' mother wrapped up her baby. I'm sure she loved him, she kissed him, she cuddled him, and she put him carefully into a basket and then sent him down the river Nile, because that was the best thing and the safest thing for him. And he was picked up by the Egyptian princess, Pharaoh's daughter, who took him into her home and raised him as a prince, as her son. Maybe that's the favorite part of Moses' story. Maybe some of you remember the part of the story when he was a little bit older and he watched an Egyptian soldier beat a Hebrew slave unmercifully, hurt him, hit him, kicked him, beat him. And Moses got very angry. And when no one was looking, he went back and he killed that Egyptian soldier. And he buried him and then he ran and he disappeared. Maybe you like that part of his story. And then God appears to Moses in a burning bush. That's an incredible story. He saw these flames in a bush. We saw this, didn't we, in a Superbook movie recently. And God spoke to him. He was 80 years old. Another part of his story is when he stood before Pharaoh, and he stood there all bold and courageous, or maybe not. And he said, God has told you to let his people go. And God sent plague after plague, and it's an amazing story. Maybe you like that one. One of my favorites is when Moses went up Mount Sinai, and the thunder came down, and the lightning, and the mountain shook as Moses disappeared up the mountain and met with God. And God gave him the 10 Commandments. And then Moses came down and he continued to lead the people into the promised land. Well, whichever part of his story, his life, you like the most, whichever story is the most fun for you to remember, I think we can all agree that Moses was an amazing man. He was an amazing leader, a really godly man. But what you might not know is that when God first approached Moses and said, I want you to lead my people out of Egypt, 2 million people out of slavery into the promised land, Moses came up with endless reasons and excuses as to why God should pick someone else. He said, but they won't even know who I am. I ran away. I murdered someone. And, they don't even know who I am. And if I go to them and say, God has told me to lead you out of Egypt, they're going to say, well, what's your name? Who are you? And how do we know God even asked you to do that? Or when I stand before Pharaoh, he's going to say, who's this person? And God said, I will be with you. I promise I will be with you. And then Moses said, but they're not going to believe me. I won't know what answers to give them. They're going to have hundreds of questions. I won't even know what to say. And they're not going to believe that you sent me. Why me? And so God gave Moses 2 miraculous tools. The first one was his staff. And it looked like an ordinary staff, but when Moses threw it down, it turned into a snake. But then when he picked it back up again, it was a staff. And that was just proof that God was with Moses. The other miraculous thing that God used through Moses is he said, put your hand inside your cloak. And when Moses removed his hand, it was full of disease. He was covered in leprosy. And God said, put it back. And when he put it back in and pulled it out, he was healed. Only God could do something so amazing. And so God equipped Moses to do this amazing task that he gave him. He had given him proof, and the people proof, that God was with him. But Moses still wasn't sure, and he said, but I don't really like talking in front of people, and I'm a bit shy. And Now we don't know if Moses had a stutter or he was just shy to speak in front of people. But God looked at Moses and he said, who gave man his mouth? Wasn't it me? And God said, I will help you speak, and I will give you the words to say. Well, Moses eventually ran out of excuses. He couldn't really think of anything else to say to God. But he said, oh Lord, please just pick someone else. Please don't make it be me. Well, the Bible tells us that God had righteous anger at this point. He knew who he had created Moses to be. He knew the strength inside him. He knew the boldness and the courageousness of Moses. And he said to him, I will send you. But because God is gracious and because he's loving and kind, he said, all right, I won't send you alone. I will send your brother Aaron to come alongside you, to serve with you, and to help you. And so Moses realized that God had made up his mind, that he was the one that God wanted to use. And as we read in the chapters following, as you've heard from the stories at the beginning, Moses was bold and courageous. He led 2 million people out of Egypt. Through him, God parted the Red Sea. Through him, God sent plagues. God did amazing things through this man, Moses. And guys, what I love is that Moses, when God chose him, didn't say, oh, well, of course, I'm the man. Why wouldn't God pick me? I'm amazing. No, Moses was humble. He was soft in his heart, and he knew he couldn't do it unless God was with him. But we see that he trusted God, he heard God, and he listened to what God asked him to do. And that's really all that God asks you and me to do. He doesn't want us to be the best, the cleverest, the most eloquent, or best at speaking. He wants us to trust in him, and he will give us the words to say. Because God will ask you to do things, children. He will ask you to come alongside someone who you can see is hurting, who maybe needs to know Jesus, and he'll give you the words to say. Maybe he'll send a friend alongside you to give you a bit of courage and to encourage you that this is great, you're doing the right thing. God will never abandon us and never ask us to do more than we can do. He won't give us a burden that's so heavy we just collapse under it. He will ask us to do things that stretch us and push us out of our comfort zone, because he knows then we will lean on him, then we will call on him, and then through us and through our weakness, his power and his glory can be shown. So guys, never think that you are not up to the task God is asking you to do. He has made you, he has formed you, he knows the plans he has for you, just like that memory verse you've just heard. And they are good plans. So go out there, be bold and be courageous, but make sure you lean in and press into God and you talk to him. All right, guys, have a great rest of your day. Bye now.